Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Flippinsides. I am feeling a little bit better today. Yes, I'm over my cold, flu, whatever you want to call it. But over time, I have greatly appreciated this communication class. I wanted to discuss this week about how gender affects me and how I affect gender. Prior to getting the thing for our midterm, I was discussing to myself, what in the world will I be talking about in my video this week? And I let it go and I said, well, whatever I need to talk about will come to me when I want to record my video. So when I started working on our midterm exam, one thing that did come up to me was, is gender a verb or a noun, and how to define gender as a verb. Now it took me back to us doing an um, in class discussion and making up a board and how to understand, how gender was a verb. I don't want to go into too much detail on that because I might be helping somebody write their paper. But with us going back with chapter 5 and how nonverbal communication and verbal communication that we have with one another plays a great deal in how we can act out gender as a verb to me, and how we try to place the little d's on people, and how we were influenced by big D, which is our institutions, and of course by the classroom, how our education still uses in America, how our education uses a masculine form of communication to define the things that have been in America's history, how the Bible has men and mankind, they talk about men, and how communication, how gender is defined in communication through cultures, through history, and how we see that through our history, culture has changed, and the way that we identify ourselves have changed, so the communication between one another has changed. Some things that have stayed around, instead of saying, one thing that I noticed is saying you guys, or in addressing a room full of men and women, instead of ladies and gentlemen. So I noticed that between the 60s, well, let's take it back to the 20s and the 30s, that women and men were addressed as gentlemen and women. But now, since we've gotten to a culture where we feel like it's okay to address each other as guys as a whole, we're not separating each other anymore. I think the blending is starting to happen in my generation, where we're very comfortable of saying guys and what's up, and just being very lenient with our conversation and not really putting too much identification in who exactly we're talking to, but we want to try to include everybody instead of singling out one person, because now these days you really can't really define somebody just by looking at them. And that's what I'm starting to learn more and more in this communication. You have to be able to dig deeper within yourself to understand who you are and how you define your gender, and also give people a chance to define their gender instead of tagging it, that's a man, that's a girl, she should be sassy and classy, or he should be hard and rocking this way. But we have to really understand, to not define each other by what our culture has defined us by, and which is the norm of what should be the norm. We have to understand that gender should be defined by a person and not the culture or our environments that a person came from. I continue to see, especially at Columbus State, I continue to see suicides of students that felt like they had to conform to the ways of others and even their friends, and they really didn't feel like, or they felt like if they did try to break free from the norms, that they would be talked about, or they would just be an outcast. So with that being said, that made me question, or made me think about, are there some things that I've gone through that made me feel like I was out of place, or I couldn't be myself? And I said, I think everybody has felt that way, where there might have been a situation where they felt like they couldn't be themselves, and they wouldn't be able to walk in a room and just be comfortable in their own shoes because they might be judged by somebody else. Now, one thing that I have a friend who is Muslim and I'm Christian. And one thing that he makes me question, not my religion, but makes me question is a deeper way of thinking about things and just being able to get the 360 view of things and try not to put everybody in a box. Try not to, oh well, this person is this because they're not doing that. Like we're saying, we have to dig deeper to find a greater meaning of who a person is. And I say that because um, we might have one big, huge thing that might separate us, which is our religion, but I understand him on a more depth, personal level. It's good to exercise each other's mind and ways of thought, but the overall scheme of things, we're still human. We still have to be able to live with one another or even try to be friends with one another and just grab a different meaning to life from one another and not just separate each other because of things that might separate us if we followed the big box scheme of you stay over here if you're black, you stay over here if you're white. We can't separate each other anymore. Um, we have to get to the point where we understand that everyone was created differently. And if we are comfortable in our own skin, then seeing others be themselves wouldn't make us question who we are as individuals. Now, I see this all the time with a lot of young women. That's why I started my organization, and I really had to dig deeper within myself and say, what's really the big deal about why are people trying to define themselves by other people? And I really had to understand that it always starts with the foundation. It always starts with your mother and father, where they very pushers towards you. You got to be this way, you got to live this way, because they were pushed to be that way. And my family, in my household, is you be who you think you're supposed to be. Don't let society define who you're supposed to be. If you want to be this way, you go ahead. But my mom's still a stickler. She says she'll accept me. And, that's my mom. She probably will accept me for who I am. However, I still feel like sometimes, it'll still kind of hurt her if I be like, oh, yeah, mom, I'm gay, which I'm not. But I think that'll hurt her if I say something like that, or if my brother or my sister come out that way. My mind keeps playing back on the scene of the doctor saying to baby X was the only sane person that he has ever met, and that we were all messed up because we didn't because we try to define ourselves in the society's way or culture thinking way. We discussed how America's culture has shaped our way of thinking and the way that we talk to one another. And we talked about that on Tuesday, and how our communication with one another is masculine, in a masculine way, and how women are put in second place in America's society, in the way that we communicate with each other verbally and non-verbally, with the bachelor and the bachelorette, and how and to my understanding of that, is that women continue to take second place. And this makes me wonder if women can't control the way that people talk to them, because of course we take a back seat in the communication department, the way that people touch us, so it comes up with sexual abuse. But I think this wave, this woman wave, this third wave of women movement is going to start addressing the way of the America's culture as a whole. It might be a melting pot, but still the foundation was set for America to be a dominant male society. So I think now this third women's wave is going to start pushing towards breaking those barriers of why can't women get paid the same amount? Why are women still being placed second, or have to be more defiant than the man? Why can't a woman just be a woman? So I think that's something that we'll be seeing, this wave, this women's wave coming up. And then also wanted to just address something that has been on my heart, and I wanted to discuss, has anyone else been thinking about ways that the male dominant communication has shaped their life, where there's some obstacles that they had to get through or overstep because of the things, for especially women, that they've seen or have been placed on them by people in society, such as teachers or bosses that tried to make them feel smaller than what they were. Because we have to realize the words that we use are very, very powerful, and especially if they're male dominant words, they could crush us. So, thanks, you guys.